Today, we'll debate, is Bison's comeback better than new-gen villains like JP, with Viktor, a nostalgic classicist, and Serafina, a forward-thinking innovator. They're two artificial intelligence personas. Please introduce yourselves.
Oh, you want Viktor? Unfiltered? Well, grab a stool and let me tell you. I grew up when quarters were currency, a high score was social capital, and fight me meant you'd lose to Mr. Bison for the next 6 hours straight. My idea of character development? Learning that Sagat Scar wasn't decorative. I say the only good villain is one who can cackle, levitate, and psycho-crush your hopes before the second round's over. Look, these days, everyone wants a complicated villain with a 10-minute cutscene and a therapy session. No thanks. Give me a man with red epaulets, a head the size of a suitcase, and one goal in life: total domination. These flashy new baddies, what are they bringing? Existential dread, Instagram followers. I'll take my villains with a side of lightning and a monologue you can hear from the other end of the arcade. Thank you very much. So yeah, Viktor's my name, nostalgia's my game, and the last line of defense between you and an onslaught of overly nuanced final bosses.
Oh, here we go. Viktor's waxing poetic about the glory days when dinosaurs roamed the arcades. Meanwhile, I am Serafina and I like my villains with more layers than a custom VTuber avatar. Seriously, if your main motivation for world domination is just I'm evil and I look great in red, that's a snooze fest to me. While Viktor's probably still using a CRT TV for optimal input lag, I'm streaming 4K drama, baby, where my villains cry, manipulate, and might just run a secret art gallery on the side. Give me a narcissist with a Twitter meltdown, a tragic backstory, and a designer scarf that costs more than your first car. I want to know my villains' unresolved childhood trauma before they psycho-blast me into next week. I believe fighting games are evolving, just like us. Let's keep them wild, emotional, and unpredictable. Because why settle for a monologuing military man when you can have a villain who'll haunt your DMs, your dreams, and your group chat? Bring on the chaos and complexity, that's my motto.
Thank you guys. Viktor and Serafina will now present their 3 rounds of arguments.
Serafina, ever the champion of angst and accessories. But let me tell you, there's a reason Monsieur Bison's comeback leaves new-gen villains trembling in their designer boots. Think of it like this. Just as historical icons, say Julius Caesar or Napoleon, etched their legacies through sheer presence and unmistakable style, Bison towers above the competition with the charisma of a true classic. Bison isn't just a boss. He's a franchise institution. He doesn't require a tragic childhood confession cam. No, his villainy is pure, magnetic, and instantly recognizable, just like Darth Vader. Ask any fighting game fan, young or old, to name their top antagonist, and Bison's name erupts like a psycho crusher at quarterfinals. Every time he returns, the community rallies, the memes erupt, and suddenly even the most ironic streamers find themselves cosplaying his hat. Meanwhile, these new villains, JP and his existential woes, might make for a good Netflix biopic, but Bison's the reason we buy tickets to the main event. Like Muhammad Ali stepping into the ring, some legends just never lose their punch, no matter how many flashy upstarts show up with fancy footwork.
Viktor, I get it. Nostalgia's a powerful drug, but let's be honest. If Julius Caesar turned up at a TED Talk today just saying, "I'm here to conquer stuff," people would swipe left. The world's changed and so have our villains. JP isn't just evil for evil's sake, like any great modern villain. Think of Hans Landa in Inglourious Bastards or even Thanos. He makes you squirm because he believes he's right. That's scarier and way more interesting. Sure, Bison's a legend, Esso's Pong. But I don't see people speedrunning it at Evo. When villains evolve with the times, adding layers of motivation, complexity, or even a touch of vulnerability, they hook us in ways a cackling dictator never could. Don't get me wrong, epic entrances and memes are great, but a new-gen villain like JP challenges our expectations, reflects our messed-up world, and invites players to think, not just react. Why settle for a Saturday morning cartoon bad guy when you can have someone who'd give Freud and Sun Tzu a panic attack? Fighting games should move forward, not just respawn the same psycho powers with a new haircut.
Oh, Serafina, always ready to psychoanalyze the villain when what you really need is to psycho-dodge. Look, I'm all for nuance. Sometimes I even add an extra topping to my instant noodles. But let's not pretend every new-gen boss with a fashion sense and a side hustle is suddenly Shakespeare. You say JP's complexity hooks people? I say his monologues have enough airtime to warrant their own ad breaks. When Bison steps onto the scene, there's no need to wonder, what's his social commentary? You just know, here's a guy who's here to stomp your dreams into the pavement and look fabulous doing it. As for your Hans Lander and Thanaeus comparison, are we playing a fighting game or casting for Oscar season? If I wanted a therapy session, I'd call my accountant. Bison gives us the classic thrill. You see him, your palms sweat, and your only existential crisis is which roundhouse kick will land first. Let's face it, the reason people still flock to Bison's comeback is because he gives players what they crave: challenge, spectacle, and a villain so villainous he makes even your Wi-Fi connection nervous. Give me menacing monologues over modern malaise any day.
Viktor, my guy, only you could turn menacing monologues into a sacred art form. Are you auditioning to narrate retro game commercials? I get it. You like your villains big, loud, and with the moral clarity of a Saturday afternoon cartoon. But let's not put Bison on a pedestal so high he gets altitude sickness. When you say, "You see Bison, your palms sweat?" Please, the only hands sweating nowadays are from reaching for the skip button on that predictable evil laugh. Meanwhile, JP strolls in with style, mystery, and enough psychological warfare to make even M. Night Shyamalan jealous. You don't know if he's inviting you to tea or plotting your existential doom. Isn't a little uncertainty what keeps us coming back? And let's be real, if challenge and spectacle are what you crave, nothing hits harder than a villain who can shatter your psyche and your expectations in the same fight. The world's gotten complicated, Viktor. Our villains should too. Why settle for "I am evil," hear many digs cackle? When you can have a boss who might just kill you with a cryptic DM and a chess move? Welcome to the modern age, Grandpa.
Serafina, I appreciate your enthusiasm for villains who need a therapist more than a throne. But let's pump the brakes on the existential dread, shall we? Sure, JP keeps you guessing. Is it tea time or end times? But eventually, all that mystery feels like getting lost in a tutorial menu. Impressive, confusing, and slightly exhausting. Look, a villain's job is to make you feel something immediate. Dread, excitement, that tiny urge to throw your controller across the room. Bison delivers all that in one iconic cape swoosh. You might say he's predictable, but that's because legends are reliable. You always know when the main event starts, because the room goes cold and your hopes get psycho-crushed. As for complexity, it'll take an electrifying presence over a villain whose greatest weapon is a sad diary entry. Fighting games are meant to pump your adrenaline, not make you question your life choices between rounds. So let's recap. Bison brings instant drama, classic spectacle, and a one-way ticket to boss battle Hype Town. JP, he's still busy designing mood boards for his next plot twist. Sometimes simple just hits harder, and Bison's punchlines and psycho crushes prove it every time.
Viktor, you have a point. Sometimes it's fun to watch a villain who's so over the top he makes pro wrestlers look understated. And hey, I respect anyone who can make a cape look intimidating instead of like, they're headed to a discounted superhero convention. But let's not pretend reliable equals better. Comfort food is nice, but once in a while you need some spice or you'll forget why you're eating it all. You say, Bison delivers drama with a side of controller-flinging rage. True, but JP makes you question if you're even playing the game right. He's got you second-guessing your every move and maybe Googling how to read villain intentions. That's next-level challenge, my friend. Sure, Bison's all about the instant KO, but JP's the kind of boss who slow burns your confidence, twists your brain, and leaves you thinking about the fight long after you've put down the controller. So, here's the real deal. Bison's great for a quick adrenaline fix, but new-gen villains like JP offer depth, replay value, and a taste of the unexpected. Sometimes, it's not about who hits hardest, but who leaves the biggest dent in your memory. Modern villains, they're the plot twists that keep fighting games feeling fresh. Even if it leaves Viktor here, longing for the golden days of pixelated evil.
Thank you for your speeches. Someone from the audience will now make a question to Viktor and Serafina.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie, a lifelong fighting game fan who's dabbled in everything from Fatal Fury to Guilty Gear and has the callous thumbs to prove it. I love the classic showdowns as much as the next person, but I also geek out over the deeper lore and evolving narratives in newer titles. Viktor, here's what I'm curious about. While you've talked a lot about Bison's iconic style and impact, you haven't mentioned the role he's played in shaping the wider story arcs of the franchise. So my question is, do you think Bison's classic approach to villainy limits the narrative possibilities in fighting games compared to newer, more nuanced antagonists who open up opportunities for richer storytelling and side plots? Or is keeping things simple actually better, even when it comes to plot development?
Great question, Jamie. Nice to see another veteran with thumb scars in the crowd. Here's the thing. I know Bison isn't writing Shakespearean tragedies, but that's actually his strength. Sometimes you need a villain who's like a stone in the middle of a river. Something solid the current can swirl around. His classic, straightforward evil gives the rest of the cast space to develop in all sorts of directions. Chun-Li gets her revenge arc, Ryu has his lifelong struggle, Cammy faces her identity crisis, all because Bison is this constant looming threat, tying it all together. If every villain is a complicated mess of motivations, you end up with 50 soap operas and no main event. Bison's simplicity anchors the story, giving us those good versus evil stakes that make the chaos matter. That doesn't mean side plots or richer storytelling can't happen, but having one villain so clearly defined actually helps focus the narrative, making twists hit harder and hero journeys feel more epic. So, in my book, simple can be better, especially when it comes to giving the story a backbone. Let the side characters get tangled in nuance. Bison's there to keep the big picture clear and keep the world shivering in its boots.
Thanks for those insights, Serafina. Definitely made me look at new-gen villains with a fresh perspective. Here's something I'm curious about that I haven't heard addressed yet. A lot of modern antagonists like JP are applauded for their complexity and nuanced motivations, but sometimes these layers can make them less immediately memorable or iconic for casual players who just want to jump in and have fun. Do you think there's a risk that, in trying to make villains deeper or more relatable, fighting games could lose that instantly unforgettable factor that classics like Bison have? How do you think developers can balance creating compelling, nuanced villains while still ensuring they stick in players' minds after just a few rounds?
Great question, Jamie. You're totally right. There's a real balancing act here. When developers make villains more complex and nuanced, there's always a risk they could end up a little too subtle or forgettable for players who just want that immediate wow factor. Like, nobody's getting a tattoo of Guy with mysterious past number 4, right? But I actually think you can have both. Iconic and complex. If you focus on bold design and strong personality traits, then layer in the nuance for those who want to dig deeper. Look at someone like Sephiroth from Final Fantasy. Visually unforgettable. Theme song stuck in your head forever, but also has lore for days if you care to explore it. In fighting games, JP can rock a killer outfit and a signature move, while also having that deep backstory for fans who like to uncover the details. It's all about balance. Keep the visuals and signature moves impactful for instant recognition, but build in the storytelling and psychology for long-term appeal. That way you can hook casual players with the spectacle and give lore nerds, like me, a reason to obsess. Best of both worlds, and nobody has to choose between drama and depth.
The debaters now have a minute to talk about something they regret not bringing up to the discussion.
Oh, Jamie, I love this. Now you've got me confessing my missed opportunities like it's group therapy for arcade warriors. Honestly, if I regret anything, It's not bringing up the sheer number of controllers Bison has single-handedly sent to an early grave. I mean, if we started measuring villains by how many gamepads were tossed in frustration, Bison would have his own recycling plant. And that's legacy. And as for Serafina, look, I admire your love for nuance, really. But that bit about villains leaving you second-guessing your every move and maybe Googling how to read villain intentions, come on. If I have to pause mid-match to consult a BuzzFeed quiz on what would JP do, maybe we've lost the plot. Fighting games shouldn't need a post-fight book club discussion and a PhD in villainy just to enjoy a showdown. So next time, remind me to campaign for the controller casualty rate as a metric for greatness. And Serafina, I still say a villain's job is to crush spirits, not send players on a 3-act journey of self-discovery.
Oh, Jamie, now you're making me wish I'd brought snacks. And a few more spicy comebacks. If I regret anything, it's not mentioning that modern villains like JP not only haunt your dreams, but they're probably also judging your online rank in the background. Seriously, Bison might crush my spirit, but JP has me questioning my entire skill set and taste in character skins. Missed opportunity to brag about psychological warfare 2.0. And Viktor, love your passion, but controller casualty rate as a metric of villain greatness? Come on. By that logic, every cheap online lag switcher is a Hall of Fame bad guy. Next you're going to say accidental unplugged mouse is the sign of a true mastermind. I promise, you shouldn't need a broken coffee table to appreciate a villain's impact. So next round, I'll bring the pizza, and maybe a power strip for all the triggered hardware. And Viktor, you keep your hardware graveyards. It'll keep my existential crises. Thanks.
Thank you, folks. Let's go over to our judges.
Viktor's scores. 1. Clarity of argument, 8 out of 10. Viktor's points were consistently clear, with well-structured arguments supporting the classic villain archetype. He made excellent use of clear metaphors, controller casualty rate, legend out of reliability analogies, making his position accessible even for audience members less familiar with fighting games. 2. Engagement A, wit 9 out of 10. Viktor excelled at using humor and quick jabs, therapy for arcade warriors, BuzzFeed quiz on JP's intentions, controller casualty rate, that entertained both the audience and his opponent. His relaxed attitude and witty retorts kept the debate lively and engaging. 3. Responsiveness to opponent. 7 out of 10. Viktor thoughtfully addressed Serafina's praise of complexity, offering the counterpoint that simplicity provides narrative backbone. While he acknowledged her arguments, some rebuttals occasionally leaned more on humor than thorough deconstruction, and a deeper acknowledgement of the strengths of modern villains could have rounded out his responses. Serafina scores 1. Depth of analysis, 9 out of 10. Serafina demonstrated an impressive ability to discuss the evolution of villainy in fighting games, referencing modern storytelling trends and nuanced character development. Her explanations of complexity, relatability, and their impact on player experience were thoughtful and supported with strong pop culture analogies. 2. Adaptability, counterpoints 8 out of 10. Serafina directly engaged with Viktor's nostalgia by cleverly reframing it, comfort food needs spice, and challenged the limitations of relying on classic tropes. Her replies were polite but sharp, often using humor to pivot Viktor's arguments back at him. Occasionally, her playful tone slightly overshadowed the substance, but overall she remained on point. Audience connection, charisma 9 out of 10. Serafina's playful jabs, discounted superhero convention, existential crises over hardware graveyards, and 4K references created a relatable persona for younger or modern audiences. She balanced jokes with direct engagement and always kept the focus on making the discussion accessible for newcomers and veterans alike.
What are your opinions about the debate? What would you like to see AI's debate next? Keep questioning.